Hey, yo, my man, yo, come here, yo.
What you got for me? What you got for me?
Yo, I got the 2 for 5 fantasy football, 2 for 5 info.
2 for 5. Let me get some of that right now.
Yo.
Here's the 5 right here.
All right, thanks.
What's number 1 right now?
All right, Patrick Mahomes' first pick.
All right, man. I'm feeling that. What's number 2, bro? Well, give me that number 2 real quick.
That's the 2. That's 1 and 2. Patrick Mahomes' first pick. Patrick Mahomes. That's all you need. That's all you need, my man. Yo, I gotta go. I'm out. All right, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You know what it is. Episode 4. All Over Sports Podcast. A.O.S.P in the bags. I'm here with a guest. Hamlet, talk to him.
What up? The name is Hamon. What's good, James?
Yo, we are out here at Fantasy Football Talk. You know what it is. It is episode 4, finally.
Best time of the year, man.
Best time of the year is that time. It's like Christmas for us sports fans. You know what it is.
I'm telling you, it makes the days go by faster, I swear. I'm a happier man when fantasy
You're happier?
Yeah. First of all, James, I want to give a shout out, man.
Tell him.
I want to give a shout out to what you're doing out here, man. Much love. Out here to Kevin doing his thing. Armando on out.
Appreciate
podcast.
That. You heard
Chris and Andrew. Shout out Chris and Andrew.
You heard that. That's the bottom line right here.
And Hyro too. I don't want to forget about Hyro, my boy Hyro. You know what it is.
You know what it is.
Let's get into this. A lot to talk about today.
Let's get into it. So, all right, man. We were having early conversations. Fantasy Football League. We're creating it. We're gonna be pre-recording this.
It's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. We're gonna be pre-recording in the video format. So we're gonna be recording the draft. It's gonna call All Over Sports Podcast Fantasy Football League. The best of the best, the Elite 8. I have specifically 8 people. Talk to me. Why 8 people? What do you think about when you say, all right, I want 8 people? Why the 8 people?
8 adds a different dynamic, James. It adds the best of the best feeling. We can only exclusive club of 8. Every team is stacked, just like the owners are stacked with ability of fantasy. These are 8 of the best players that you're going to find out there, James.
The best of the 8. Now, do you, as far as when it comes to the fantasy football, tell me a little bit about the format, because I know about, obviously I used to play it before. I'm not going to be in it this year, by the way. But I know that as far as Hamlet, he's been doing this for many years. He actually...
Yep. Shout out to TNF.
Hey, that's his other fantasy football. He's really good at what he does. He's when it comes to making all this, he's really great at it. Now talk to me. So what makes this fantasy football so great about it? Like what are you gonna do different, or what are you gonna do about this? Like tell me, PRP, what is it?
Here it is. First of all, the first thing that makes a fantasy league special is the owners themselves. Commissioner only basically falls through the momentum that the owners build for them. If you got characters, you got people who want to win, basically the league basically controls itself, you know what I mean? So
absolutely,
that's the number one thing. In terms of the format of how this one's going to be, simple format, James. So we're looking at 8-man team, 2 flex spots, mock snake draft. And we're going to have a big live where everybody's going to go ahead and detail every pick, why they made their pick. And we're looking for the big moves. We're looking for moves that would be like, whoa, what are you doing here? What are you doing
absolutely
here? And all stuff. And so every draft has those. I mean, we got these guys that do mock drafts and all that stuff. I'm not going to lie. I do a couple mock drafts and all that stuff by the time and all that. But it's never going to prepare you for the real thing, James.
Absolutely.
You got these guys making moves that you don't even see. I was in the league last year, had 4th pick. I was looking at Kamara with the 4th pick. And then you got a guy drafting Aaron Rodgers with a 3rd overall pick.
Wow.
Now,
that's a brave move.
Pick. That's a ballsy move. And
that's a brave move.
Now, what does this do for you, James? And then the day, it changes your whole dynamic. And then the day didn't work out for me because I ended up going with David Johnson. I'm like, David Johnson, he's on the board and all that stuff. Obviously, no one saw this whole Josh Rosen thing going on and all that stuff. So that didn't end up panning out for me. But these are the things that change drafts. 8-man leagues, you cannot mess up. That's why we wanted the best of the best. If you mess up with your 1st and 2nd round pick, that's it for you, man. That's it for you. Most of the time in the 10-man league, it's the same thing. But honestly, this is what's going on with A-Man.
Can you tell by the obviously you just spoke about that. Can you tell who's good at fantasy football opposed to anybody else that's not good at fantasy football just by their picks?
So, pretty much. I mean, at the end of the day, fantasy is a little bit more about strategy. You're looking at positions that are going to give you the most points, where you could maybe sneak them in. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, no, it's just a breathing. You're breathing on the mic, that's why.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
So basically, what you're looking at is the things that are going to make the decisions or the final outlooks is more when you're looking at tight ends, productivity that you're getting from your tight end. If you don't have a top tier tight end, you got to get it from somewhere. So that means you got to get a top 2, top 3 running back. And if you don't have the top 2, 3 running backs, you got to make sure that receiving core is on point. So how do you tell if an owner's good? Is basically seeing how the draft is going and adjusting based on the picks that are going in front of them. So if he sees a lot of running backs coming on the board, you got to look at yourself and you got to be like, okay, where can I get an advantage when I'm going against that person?
Right.
Because automatically, if I'm going against that person's going to have better running backs than me.
Right.
So I got to make sure I get the advantage.
Correct.
In the receiving core.
Okay.
And the tight ends, you know what I mean? And all that stuff. Sometimes, like, back in the day when we had more, like, powerful tight ends in the league, you're looking like, oh, man, if I draft 2 top-tier tight ends when Jimmy Graham was good, and you'll tell, like, let's say Gronkowski and all that stuff, you know people are going to be hitting you up for those tight end positions.
Absolutely.
So if you can't get one of those guys even if you can't get one of those guys that you're looking for, hey, if I draft another tight end and all that stuff, I know someone's going to be hitting me up for that tight end.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
at the end of the day, that's really mostly where you could see where an owner is good or not when it comes to drafting. A lot of players will just draft with the best available. But at the end of the day, it's giving yourself the best chance to succeed through the draft of making sure you have a level of productivity from one area that another person does not.
Right, right.
So at the end of the day, that's going to give you set your team apart. And so that's what you're trying to do at the end of the day, James.
Man, that itself, I would, like, when I used to play fantasy football, I know that the biggest challenge, at least for me, was how do I know this guy's going to stay healthy? He's great. He'll give you 4 games that are great, but usually after the 4th, 5th week, he's usually on that injured list.
Yeah.
How do you know when, okay, I'm going to pick this guy, but man, I should, you know what? Matter of fact, I'm going to wait on this guy because this guy gets hurt too much. I know he's going to be later on. He's going to be on the draft boards later on for the 7th. How do you know that?
You got to evaluate, obviously, reward versus risk and all stuff. We got a lot of situations going on with the NFL. We're talking about Zeke holding out. We're talking about Melvin Gordon requesting a trade.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about Antonio Brown with this.
With the frostbite? Oh, no, the helmet situation.
What's going on over here, man?
I mean,
it's
that's
like,
crazy.
What's going on over here, man?
That's crazy itself.
When you want to set a league, you want to set a league close to the final. I mean, before the season opener. You make decisions and all that stuff. You have a draft too early before that,
right.
And then the day what can happen is injuries and all that stuff. I've been a part of leagues where injuries basically take you out of the league before the first game even goes. Go ahead and get started and all that stuff. So, and then the day one, going back to your question about the injuries, you're looking at guys who sometimes get hurt a lot, like the Leonard Fournettes,
right?
The Melvin Gordons. I mean, I know last year I took a chance on the Doug Baldwin and all that stuff, and that guy ended up screwing me. But in the end of the day, you evaluate risk and reward.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so what you're trying to do is, where am I drafting this guy, and is it a position that I really need? You know what I mean? If it's a position you really need, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to take a chance.
Absolutely.
It's coming at a low cost, you know what I mean? Like a small trade and all that stuff, there it is. But if it's a position you're going to need to fill, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you don't have that position. I'll give you an example. Like Melvin Gordon, he's probably falling off on some drafts right now. So you might not need to draft a running back so early.
Right.
Because you get Marvin Gordon
Later
You know
on.
what I mean? Later on, depending if you have a middle round pick and all that stuff. So
And you also got to look at contracts. Contract years.
Yeah, contract years is the big thing. AJ Green, before he got the contract, was going off.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Going off, I'm telling you, man, he was probably top 2, top 3 wide receiver.
I agree.
Now, since then, I mean, this guy's finding injuries left and right. He has got another one that's holding him back.
Right.
I mean, another little guy who's going to fall in the draft because of the injuries and all that. And which you're thinking to yourself, you know what I mean? Do I want to take a chance on that guy? You know what I mean? Do I want to take a chance on the guy? Because a lot of times there's shit in the draft. And I mean, like there's nothing left. So at the end of the day, there's not a risk to taking him. Correct. But other people are probably thinking the same thing you are. Right. And all that stuff's just like, hey, he may get drafted too early. But that's where you're going to be careful with that, because that could basically dictate your whole season. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And but I would say this. Okay. I want to get into the fact that we know that Antonio Brown is having these I guess these fits per se. Is this safe? Is this still safe to pick Antonio Brown for the late for the later draft, or is it like, you know what, don't take the chance, Antonio Brown, let's wait to what happens, you know, maybe he's a free agent later, who knows?
So the things you want to look at is who's throwing him the rock, James.
Derek Carr?
Who's throwing him the rock? Derek Carr. Let's look at the weapons he's had last season. He had Amari Cooper. He had Jordy Nelson. He had Jared Cook, that tight end, and all that stuff. You had talent. Games where Amari Cooper in Dallas Cowboys, he was having some monster games. Right. But he had a dud in a lot of games that he was playing with Derek Carr. So you're looking at, is this the system and all that stuff? They're carrying the same coach, James. John Gruden and all that stuff. So where can he get lost in that? There's some players who are really good. Antonio Brown, obviously really good and all that stuff. He could create separation no matter who's guarding him just because of the speed, all that. But Amari Cooper's pretty fast too, James. Right. And all that stuff. And there's a lot of routes where Amari Cooper's open down the field where he didn't get looked at by, because Derek Carr was like making reads on the other side of the field. You know what I mean? So these are things that you got to look at. Antonio Brown as a talent, yeah, he should get drafted early and all that stuff. But who's throwing him the rock, James?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's facts.
Who's throwing him the rock? So is he a top tier, maybe top 25 pick? Top 25 pick, yeah. But with the whole diva stuff, you got him missing games last year. Like maybe he missed a couple games or one game last year just because he was having a little fit and all that stuff. Is he going to do this now? I mean, he's already making fits before the season even gone. Is he going to do this now? What owners want, James, is they want as much certainty as they can get.
Do you think, well, obviously they're not going to be able to trade him because this is just a bigger than just a team thing. This is a football thing, because he said specifically, if I don't get my helmet, because obviously it has to be NFL approved, if I don't get my helmet, I'm going to stop playing football overall. So that means that no NFL team is going to want him. So that's crazy. I mean, I personally would take him just in case. But I didn't know if I would take him right away.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of good wide receivers. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna take a shot right here, James. What? I like Amari Cooper.
You like Amari Cooper?
Antonio Brown. I like Amari Cooper.
I like Amari Cooper, but I feel like sometimes I think he had overall a lot of drop passes as well.
Maybe he has some drop passes, James. But I'll tell you one thing:
the targeting.
When you got Zeke in your backfield, that defense has their eyes on Ezekiel Elliott. Even though he's holding out, I believe that they're going to pay him his money. He's going to come back, and Zeke is Zeke. You know what I mean? He's going to get his rushing yards and all that stuff. But when you're talking about that play-action game with Dak Prescott, who could extend the amount of time that he has in the pocket with his legs.
Right.
You got Amari Cooper. He makes a one move. He might be open down the field.
But you also got to realize that Dak Prescott doesn't even really have that many crazy yardage games. He has more. He will give you like 150 yards, 1 touch, 2 touchdowns. Because they'll be high scoring game, but it wouldn't be because of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is more like I don't know. He doesn't have impressive stats to help.
I get you, James. I 100% get you. But with the weapons that he has this year, Jason Witten, he has him back.
He's like 60, man.
He's 60. He's probably out there in freaking a cane and all that stuff. But I still like his big body down the middle of the field. What he could do in terms of distracting the defense. Now, at the end of the day, Amari Cooper is going to have a lot more time to get open versus a Derek Carr, who maybe is not as mobile as Dak Prescott.
No, absolutely, in the O-line.
And a lot of these big plays, James, a lot of these big plays are made by mobile quarterbacks.
No, absolutely.
You look at Kyle Murray right now. I'm telling you, I'm liking this Kyle Murray guy.
He's the first quarterback I know that they're building the offense around.
Yeah.
Around him.
Josh Rosen couldn't do these things.
Oh,
man.
no, he
Josh
can't.
Rosen, and Josh Rosen, this guy needs to be his hands and knees for Preston Williams. I don't know if you saw that.
For Preston Williams. Oh, absolutely. Preston Williams is a wide receiver. If I remember, I can't remember correctly what college he came from. He's undrafted, right?
Correct.
He's undrafted, and he had a hell of a game, and he's 6'5", 220.
Making ridiculous catches.
No, yeah.
Every catch that
and
he made.
6'5". We need a 6'5" guy.
Yeah, 6'5" guy. Devontae Parker. Some people are asking if this is going to be the guy and all that stuff. He hasn't made any moves, James. He hasn't made any moves in terms of. I've been thinking that maybe, he's the guy and all that stuff that's going to take him to the next level. He's not making those moves, James.
And Preston Williams, I have a feeling that this is going to happen. No one's going to draft Preston Williams. Are you going to? Well, you don't have to mention it, but is that you're going to keep your eye on Preston Williams if he's a free agent?
It really depends on who the quarterback is going to be. If it's Fitz. Well, Josh Rosen, he might not be able to get the ball off. I like Fitz with Preston Williams. Fitz, he does not care. He will throw the rock. It doesn't matter if he gets picks and all that stuff. So he's a receiver quarterback. Receivers are going to go out there knowing that he's going to chuck that rock. And a lot of times that's all these receivers want. They want a chance of catching the rock. And if you see Preston Williams fought off a guy, almost got a pick off one guy. He made a sideline catch on one of them. He made a one-handed catch on another. This guy, he's looking like
he's working hard
and all stuff. And Josh Rosen is only, in my opinion, in the QB conversation because of Preston Williams. Preston, I don't know if you've seen the movie Mr. Deeds.
Isn't that the server? Yeah, the wager. Yeah.
I'm gonna let you least Preston.
Yeah, I don't remember much of that movie of Mr. Deeds. That was a long time ago, man. That was a great movie,
bro. But that's basically Josh Rosen right there. She's the waitress saying Preston.
No, absolutely. No, and he's a beast. He has a physicality.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't hear too much on him, but I liked what I saw.
Okay, so I want to get into this. What in the first pick? You spoke about it. You say running back. What is the ideal player? What position would you pick in the first pick?
All right. First of all, it really depends. If you're talking first overall pick, you're looking at Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is a talent that we haven't seen in a while. This guy.
RPO.
Yeah,
you
put him in any system, anything. He's gonna make a guy miss. You got the best guys in the league. Have him right in front of him. And he makes a miss.
Right.
And all that stuff. So in reality, you just got to get this guy the ball in a little bit of space. He'll do some things for you.
So you'll say running back for overall?
Running back overall, man.
Running back
overall.
Well, what? Let's just say I'm the second pick. You picked up Saquon, or I'm the third pick, whatever. And if I pick up Patrick Mahomes, is that a bad pick?
Patrick Mahomes, you're reaching there, James.
You're
reaching there early. 8-man league, you're gonna need a good quarterback in an 8-man league. You're gonna need a top dynamic quarterback in an 8-man league because in reality, you got teams putting up so much numbers and all that stuff that if your quarterback is not keeping up, that's gonna cost you.
But Patrick Mahomes is averaging over 30 points easily.
Yeah, he's a runner and all that stuff. And honestly,
you still wouldn't pick. I'll pick him first because I feel like, from what I've seen, is the most successful. I've seen the teams in fantasy football, the owners that had the most success, the highest success, were great quarterbacks. Like I've seen one with Aaron Rodgers, seen the other one with Patrick Mahomes. I saw last year Patrick Mahomes. I saw the year before with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady wasn't having like crazy numbers. But you don't think it's important to have guys, especially Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes is averaging over 30 points. You don't think it's important for him? If I see him in opportunity, I know if I get third pick and I see Patrick Mahomes there. It might be not sophomore, but it might be a third-year slump for him. But I'm probably going to take my chances with him because I feel like with Andy Reid, Kansas City are going to be good. Not playoff good, but they're going to be season good.
I'll give you a little tip on that one, James. Now, Patrick Mahomes, first-year starter last year.
Yeah, first-year starter.
If you look at 2 years before, Deshaun Watson, first-year starter, was doing some things. First-year starters, I'll give you a little example, maybe like
Ryan Griffin.
More like Baker Mayfield,
Baker Mayfield.
Kyle Murray. Things what happened last year with Patrick Mahomes and
Right.
the year before that with Deshaun Watson is that you were able to get those guys really low
Right.
because not many people were like 100%
Or yeah,
sold on them
100%. Yeah.
and all that stuff. So when you're talking about those teams that were doing well, yes, they were doing well because they had those quarterbacks and all that stuff like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. But one thing that I would tell you is that these guys who got those players got them low risk. They got them either late in the draft or a low trade before they actually really blew up.
But what
and all that
about
stuff.
but what about now? Like now you wouldn't select them if you had a
No,
top
because the
pick.
thing is, you need the top tier players. Usually, like if you see these teams that are winning with that quarterback, they still have the main positions like running back and wide receiver filled.
Right.
You know what I mean? They went early in the draft. They sold high on the position players that you need, and they were able to get that quarterback low. Not
Right.
a lot of people were drafting Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was going maybe the 8th, 9th round last year.
Absolutely,
People been
because-
taking a shot at him as a backup QB, and then he ended up being a stud. You start playing him, and because you were able to draft studs ahead and add him to the factor, Deshaun Watson the year before. You know what I mean? Of course, that's going to take your team over the top because you didn't have to give up that much to get him, James. Exactly.
That makes
So
that makes sense. Okay.
That takes you over the top.
That makes complete sense. And it was crazy because we live in a non-defensive league. Like I wouldn't say non-defensive, but I feel like the only time we saw defense last year was in the Super Bowl. But I saw last year a lot of high-scoring games. I feel like the offensive players have become key. Obviously, when you choose the defensive team for your fantasy, I feel like it's, at least to me, the importance of quarterback has increased. And yes, you're correct about that. You should go risk low and go high on the running backs and wide receiver because the availability of them is a lot smaller than the quarterback. You know, that makes complete sense. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel like a lot of these quarterbacks are now scoring 30, 40 points. I mean, in any other era, you wouldn't see any of these quarterbacks scoring more than 25 points.
Definitely. But going on to your point, you know what I mean? A lot of quarterbacks are doing that now, James.
Yeah.
Now, and then they it really depends. I played in my league, the TNF league, last year. I mean, I scaled it that way, but a quarterback touchdown rating, points for that was only 4 points versus 6 in every other league.
Okay.
That makes a difference. And at the end of the day, it's kind of all relative, but that makes a difference.
Is that per every 10 yards, do they get like a point?
Well, 25 yards, I believe. Every
25
yards. But for a touchdown.
For a touchdown.
I mean, quarterbacks, they threw more touchdowns.
So a touchdown, would they go
scaled
around 10 points?
No,
Or
4
4
points for a touchdown. And then every other league that I was in was 6 points for a touchdown.
6 points, right.
And all that stuff. Obviously, when you're trying to make a big comeback, you got a quarterback left to play on like a Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and all that stuff, the 6 point thing.
Those are the
Plays
worst
out.
ones. I hate
Yeah.
waiting Monday Night Football because you're like, oh,
You're stressing, man.
Yeah.
You're stressing. And the last thing you want to deal with is someone who's injured on Sunday.
Right.
And it's like, do I play the guy who was playing on Sunday night and Monday night?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or do I go with this guy? Hopefully he plays the right amount of snap and all that stuff. Those are always challenges that you got to deal with.
Damn.
It's a risk. I mean, big risk. I mean,
think I'm not doing it.
Fantasy is a lot of stress. Yes, man. And I got a lot of my boys, including you, taking a break off from fantasy this year. And I wish I had the strength in me to do that, James.
Yeah,
I
it's
wish I had the strength
addicting.
in me.
That's the reason for the skit in the beginning because it's really a fucking addiction when
Yeah.
you start doing fantasy football because every fucking year you got to be worried. Look, you're obviously placing a bet.
Yeah.
So you'll say, well, I'm betting a certain amount, such and such amount. But when you start realizing it's the end of fantasy football and you got to win, it's the pot is $400. And not only that, it's an ego thing because I'm the
Yes,
fantasy football. Even though
ego.
a lot of fantasy is, you would say it could be luck.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a lot of smart choices in between it. But when you realize that you can't, when you realize that you had this a $500 bet and your ego's on the line and you don't want to be the worst in last place, you want to at least be playoff good. That's tough, man. Fantasy is a hell of a drug, man.
Fantasy can mess with you, James. At its highest, you're not gonna find another high. I mean, besides the other stuff. At its lowest, you're not gonna find another low as that, James. You don't want to lose to one of your boys and all that stuff, and then
Yeah, you don't want
gotta
them
live
niggas
with
make
that
fun
for
of
the
you.
rest of your life.
That's how
The
I
rest of your
feel.
life, James. You're never gonna be able to get over it. I got a
Yeah.
couple of my boys that I got stuff over just because I beat them in fantasy, and they can't tell me anything. They can't tell me anything, James.
Absolutely. No, yeah. And that's the laugh that you'll probably be getting for losing. I mean, because every time, look, fantasy football is like this, like, it's like that every time because you're like,
Correct,
fuck, because you're like, yeah,
correct.
damn, here we go again. Here's the next week. And when there's a bye week, it's one of those tough weeks because you're like, fuck, I got to sit, damn, bro,
It's
my
like
best
I might
player.
get beat this week. I might get
Yeah.
beat this week, and I gotta take it because they're gonna talk to you like if you had your squad, full squad. Even though you had the buys, they're not gonna mention. Oh yeah, no one's gonna remember the buys, James. No
No.
one's gonna remember buys. They're gonna come at you. If they
Absolutely.
beat you, they're gonna come out with the talk, just like if they beat you with your full squad out there.
Absolutely. And I would even suggest that if you guys are going to do fantasy football, make sure you guys are mentally prepared because it's a fucking stress. Like
Grind.
you have to be on top of it. Wednesdays when I know most fantasy
Waiver
football on
claims,
Wednesdays is
yes.
waivers and picking up free agents. It's a hell. It's studying. It's learning the game.
James, there's guys that are literally first thing in the morning. I believe like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. It's like when you could go ahead and the waiver claims are set, so you could pick up someone on free agency. That was
Get
not
out of here
claimed.
for real.
We got guys doing that, man, and that shows determination. That shows what fantasy does for you. It changes your life. It changes your sleeping pattern, all stuff. I got.
No wonder
you
America's
see
the
what
most
time these
hated.
guys are picking people up. I'm like, what are you doing at that time? But look, sometimes that's what it takes to win, James. That's what it takes to win. You got to ask yourself, am I that guy? And if you are that guy, all props to you.
I'm not, bro.
If you're not, then you're not. You know what I mean? You got to deal with it.
There's some people that are just built for it and they have a higher tolerance. Me, bro, like, I used to be made fun of. I can't be, I'm like, Kawhi Leonard be laughing in the background like, yo, your team is trash, my guy.
I'm telling you, you will get
Mm,
ranked on.
yeah.
If you, because other people can see what time you pick that guy up after the waiver claims, and if they see that, you better be ready for the lash because you're gonna get it from your boys. You'll be like, yo, what the fuck you doing? You got no life, all that stuff, blah blah blah.
I agree 100%. I was gonna touch upon that. What player is to you will be the one that scores the most points? What player you think will score the most points in this year's fantasy draft?
Well, I know I said Saquon Barkley, number 1 overall, but that's basically on just sheer talent itself. My number 1 guy,
Right.
I'm saying, has the most points.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara?
You're talking about a guy who was putting up crazy numbers last year.
Right.
Through, I believe, Mark Ingram was hurt, and he was the only guy out there. And through that amount of time, he was putting up numbers that no one else was competing with. Maybe Saquon Barkley, maybe.
So again, you would say again,
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah. And now
You don't think he's gonna have a little bit of slump this year with?
Well, the year to have the slump was last year. That was his sophomore year.
Well, what about this year? Now that I feel like they're gonna be using more
Mark Ingram was gone.
and Thomas.
I think Kamara is just young enough to get over that, James. Young enough, and the thing is, he's not playing with no scrub throwing him the rock. He's playing with Drew Brees.
One of
He's
the
got
greatest.
Michael Thomas on the outside.
It's the RPO era.
And
right?
honestly, yes. And honestly, he's got that backup quarterback. I forgot his name, but that quarterback that helps him out in the RPO. You know that quarterback that comes in sometimes. What's his name? I forgot his name.
Hold on, now I gotta look.
But
this
he's the
up.
guy that comes in and that read option that they run and all that stuff that plays for Drew Brees. While Drew Brees is like resting or whatever, that's the specific play call. But Kamara in that offense, what he could do, and honestly, you can't focus down on him because you also got Michael Thomas on the edge.
Was it Teddy Bridgewater? Teddy Bridgewater?
No.
The Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill, yeah,
Taysom
he's
Hill?
number 7 guy always with this.
All right, yeah, Taysom Hill.
And all that stuff. So he.
Well, I'm reading here that he might be the guy that because Drew Brees obviously is a little bit older. We don't know how much longer he has, but again, like Tom Brady.
Way he could set up his offense is still hands down one of the best in the league. So he puts his players in the best chance to succeed. Kamara, that guy is just dynamic. I think he's gonna have.
He has the agility. He has the size. He can do it all. There's not much that he cannot do.
Yeah, when you talk about most points, Kamara, you're talking about safest at number 1. You talk about Barkley. So there we go.
Saquon Barkley will be the one with the scoring the highest points. So that includes the receiving yards, the receiving touchdowns.
These guys are receivers now, James.
No, they're
These
receivers.
Guys are receivers. You look like Le'Veon Bell. He want to get paid.
I was gonna argue that now that they're actually have to put double the work, doesn't that make them a lot more not even a lot more, but doesn't that shorten their years? Because I feel like now that they're in task of doing running and catching and all of that sort, like the Darren Sproles type of player, wouldn't you say that their careers cut short because they're used more? So obviously there's more injury to the body, like a David Johnson, more or less. Not that his career's cut short, but he's obviously more injuries.
Well, that could be one way to look at it. I actually think it extends the amount of years that you can. Yeah, because if this guy could prove himself as a receiver, what's not to say after his run years are done, I could go ahead and go ahead and run that slot for me real quick and all stuff. You're proven as a receiver. So receivers have long careers and all that stuff. So, hey, what's to say that I can't throw you out there in the slot? And number two, a lot of things when you're a receiver, sometimes you could go ahead and go ahead and prevent certain types of hits getting on you. When you're a running back, you're running straight down the middle. You know what I mean? You're getting the bulk of the defensive linebackers coming at you and all that stuff. When you're getting the ball with these guys in space with the offensive system now, you know what I mean? They could kind of control how hard they get hit and all that. So they could go ahead and dive out of a big hit, you know what I mean, lean forward for some yards and all that stuff instead of ground and pound straight in the middle.
Absolutely.
Where you might not see a linebacker going ahead and covering up that gap in the hole. And all that stuff. I'll say some of these guys are having longer careers than anything. If you see Melvin Gordon, injury guy last year, you know what I mean, he was actually doing pretty well because of the way they were using more of a patch catcher as well and all that created.
Well, Melvin Gordon now asking for a trade, which is crazy because his team is so good. Like, why? I mean, there has to be. Do you know the reason why?
It's a business move, James. It's a business move that you had to go ahead and show the ownership that you're ready to go ahead and make that type of sacrifice to your own career. I mean, look, more guys are doing it. I mean, I think Le'Veon Bell opened the path to this. If you see, I took a chance on Bell last year. I traded for him, and I mean, made a big trade, which I deeply regretted after. But I mean, look, at the time, if I knew Le'Veon Bell was going to play, I feel like maybe it would have been worth it. But this guy did something that no one has ever done in the league.
I think they were
out for the whole
absolutely, and I think they've learned. I honestly I think they've learned from the NBA. I think, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go back to this guy again. Where's my man over here?
Where's your man?
My man. Where's he at?
My man's in them.
Where's my man's in them? Jesus Christ, I can't even. All right, there you go. Every time I talk about the NBA, we gotta talk about about my man. Look, you have to go back. I feel like Le'Veon Bell has been learning from other sports. Obviously, the more prominently is the NBA. The NBA, obviously, being a big trade central. When the players want to play, they ask for a trade, they demand a trade. I think football is following the same path. Obviously, being more demanding, more vocal about what they want. Le'Veon Bell was a prime example, and look what he did. I mean, opened up the door for Antonio Brown. And open up the door for Melvin Gordon.
Exactly what you're saying. More of these players are getting what they want nowadays.
But yeah, but Antonio Brown is just for real. Because honestly, Antonio Brown, yeah, like the whole Tillman situation, I understand it might be a little bit, maybe it might, derail your vision according to him. But
he's gonna play, James.
He's gonna play, obviously, because he knows that at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be blacklisted from the league. He doesn't want to be a Colin Kaepernick. He does not want that to happen. And he knows that's where the money's at. And who knows if that guy's a big spender like Adrian Peterson that lost almost all his money. But nevertheless, I'm going to get into this. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm going to do a new segment. And I like to call it, give me 1 second.
Stay off the weed.
My man Stephen A. Smith. Shout out to him.
I got to hear this.
Now, for NCAA has created a restriction for all NBA agents. NBA agents that want to hire or that want to actually be an agent for NBA for players coming out of college have been restricted. So in order they have to follow some certain guidelines and some certain policies. They have to have a bachelor's degree. They have to acquire a bachelor's degree, be certified by the NBA PA for the last 3 years, and they have to pass an exam administered by the NCAA National Office in Indianapolis. Now, we all know this is nothing but a hate crime against the man Rich Paul. We all know the three biggest mafias in the world are the government, SunPass, and NCAA.
SunPass.
Darius Baisley began a 3-month internship with New Balance worth $1 million. Guess where that came from? Rich Paul. Rich Paul was the man that actually told him, you know what? Forget college. Why don't you work Why don't you intern at New Balance and make $1 million? Why? Because the NCAA has restricted money from the NBA, from the college players that deserve to get paid, because that the fact is, the matter remains that they all want to keep the money for themselves. It's nothing but becoming like slave masters, because usually what they're actually doing is abusing these kids, making all the money out of them, and then, hey, you can't get paid for what you do, even though you're on CBS. You know what, man? You don't deserve that payment. And at the end, and for the fact of the matter remains is that this is the reason why we don't have NCAA football college anymore for EA Sports, and that's one of my favorite games. You know how mad that got me? That gets me pissed off.
That game, James. I liked it.
I love that game. That was my favorite game. NCAA are nothing but crooks and nothing but assholes. Forgive my language. Nah. Fuck that. They're nothing but assholes. Something needs to be done about this. Obviously, this is just a hate crime against Rich Paul, like I said, and Rich Paul deserves all the acclamation for being what he is, a great agent. If you guys don't know who Rich Paul is, he's an agent for LeBron James, and he is one of the best agents. He owns Clutch Sports. He's an agent for Anthony Davis, as I mentioned, LeBron James, Ben Simmons, and amongst other players. This guy has created a vortex, created an empire that has helped. He's one of the biggest figures in sports. I don't know what article I read, but an article that mentioned that the biggest figure in sport is not LeBron James, but Rich Paul. And the NCAA has trying to violate Rich Paul because they don't want their NBA players moving out to any other European team out there, or any international teams. They want them to play in college and take their money and take all the money that they deserve and not pay them one dime. Hey, but look, at least you have a scholarship. You're going to school. No, fuck that. I believe a lot of these players deserve to get paid. And if I were these players, I would start boycotting them. Get me a guy like Rich Paul and start going. Finding new places where I can start making money and building my basketball career. And this is the reason why basketball isn't as great as football. And I'm sorry to say it. Is it an exciting year this year? Absolutely, but it still lacks a lot of rebuilding.
Who's out there, James? Who's out there for NCAA basketball right now?
Hey, listen, man.
Maybe we're on a fallout year because last year we had Zion, we had R.J. Barrett, we had the the Doogie boys.
Hey, but think about it. These guys, Zion Williamson injured himself last year and he didn't get paid not even 1 cent. Oh, you're injured. Well, his career could have been derailed. We could have been robbed from probably one of the future greatest players if that injury was any worse. So at the end of the day, NCAA, I got nothing but this for you.
Stay off the weed.
Fuck off, NCAA.
Por favor.
Now, it's the end of the show. I want to thank you. Man, I didn't even use my mash buttons here, man.
James, thanks for having me, man.
Man, I appreciate it. It's a little sloppy, obviously, but we're getting it done.
Much love.
We're getting it done. And Hamlet, thank you for coming, man. It's been a pleasure we're teaching about the fantasy football. You're well into it. You taught me a couple things I probably didn't even know.
Check it out, man. I mean, stay tuned for more. We're gonna have the All Over Sports Podcast League. We're gonna have a daily update about what's going on and all stuff. We're gonna fill out
pre-recorded
following.
Absolutely, video forecast. Stay tuned for that. It's gonna be big. Next episode next week will be talking about the UFC on Saturday. It's going to be a big fight. Stipe versus Daniel Cormier. Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz. And you have Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. That's going to be huge. We're going to be talking about that on Sunday. I'll be here hopefully with one of my MMA guys. Thank you again. I appreciate you coming by, Hamlet.
Of course, James. Shout out everyone, all the ones listening, man.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night.